Hey everybody, this is Shannon Mayer.
Hey guys, it's LJ Andrews.
Hey guys, this is Alexis Almenard.
Hey, this is Paula Lafferty.
This is Jack Emery.
Hi everyone, this is Alexis Calder, and you're listening to the Blush and Burn Books podcast.
You're listening to the Blush and Burn Books podcast, where we spread those pages and stir up all the feels from blush-worthy slow burns to heart-pounding spice.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blush and Burn Books podcast. I'm Laura Eakin.
And I'm Annie Baxter.
And we're so excited. We have the amazing author Alexis Calder on here with us today. Woo, woo, woo.
Woo. We're excited to have you here.
I'm so excited.
I have been bugging Laura for a while. Please message her. Just see if she's even remotely interested in chatting with us because as you can see, we both have your Kingdom of Blood and Salt, which we read as a group of 3 of us, girls who were looking for a book to take to a retreat that we had put together. And we were going through a bunch of different ones that we thought everybody would like. And we had named our retreat The Court of Blush and Burn. And that was kind of like our theme through the whole thing. So we were trying to find like court books and kingdom books. And this one popped up on our list. And I was like, let's just try it. And so we did a few, and yours won out. And
we weren't even 50% of the way through it. And all of us were like, this one, we need to order these right now.
Yep.
Because we were like, these girls are going to devour this book.
Yeah.
And immediately ordered 14 copies.
Yep.
To give to our retreat girls.
We were excited.
That's awesome.
And they've all read it and have loved it. So it was a real big hit.
Yay. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Fun.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Listen, I just get excited when people say yes to coming and hanging out with us. And then knowing that like we had so many people who had read your book and had truly loved it, to have you say yes to come on too. It's a real treat for us as well. So we're really, really grateful to have you here. I want to learn a little bit more about you and like your beginnings of what got you into reading, like where your beginning reading was, and then what got you into writing.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely was, I know it's kind of cliche, but I was one of those people that loved reading early on and also would do writing early on. As a kid, I got into like weird phases, like, you hyperfixate on something. So
Yes.
I had a vampire phase in like 2nd grade where I got all
in 2nd grade?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
There was this book at the library that was like all about vampires, and then the last part, it was like written for kids, and then the part at the end was like scientifically how vampires couldn't be real, like because they would wipe out the population because they would all need to drink blood. Like it was this, and I swear I checked it out from the school library. It was at my public school. I checked it out like once a week.
Oh my gosh,
it was the weirdest thing. And then I went through
fantastic.
Then I went through a Greek mythology phase, which no surprise, right, with the book I wrote.
Yeah.
And then I went
we're going to talk about that too.
Yeah, and then I went through I think one of my longest ones was like books about the Holocaust, which is really gruesome. But that got me into just following authors. So like I read Number the Stars. And then that got me into reading everything Lois Lowry wrote. So then I read like The Giver and went on a dystopian kick. And like, so I would follow either certain themes or certain authors and read everything I could find on that. And then I'd get bored of it and move to a different topic. So that was,
Gotcha.
I don't know, I like college, I think it was all historical fiction. I just read everything I could get my hands on.
We've all gone through a historical fiction phase, okay? We've all gone through especially like a romance, like that romance, like Regency, like I feel like I think I was probably like 18 and 19 when I really found that like Regency romance. And I like hit it hard.
She did.
I loved hard for a couple of years.
Yeah. Because you get like hyper fixated on a certain genre or topic or author. At least I
Yeah.
did. And I think a lot of readers were like that. And I think I see less of that now, which is kind of cool. I think it reminds me of the way music, I don't know, I'm maybe aging myself here, but
Oh,
we would
I
get
love
stuck in
that.
one genre of music, right? And then all the other genres were not allowed. At least when I was in high school, it's kind of how it was. You had like your thing, but if you ask younger, even just a few years younger kids, it was like, oh, I listen to everything. I was like, you can't listen to everything. Like,
I was part of the
what do you,
listen to everything.
right. It was odd to me that people would do that. There were always a few, but I found most of the people I hung out with in high school had like they listened to country or they listened to alternative or they listened to rap. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's now no one just listens to one genre. Like even I don't listen to one. I listen to everything now. So it's kind of fun. I feel like books have gone that way too. Like people don't just
I
stick to
agree with
one
this.
genre anymore.
I feel
I
like
agree.
I even feel like they've done this with like clothing. I actually mentioned this to a friend
Mm.
the other day and said, I'll tell you what's interesting is like, you know how you have like kind of like some current things that are happening right now, but like anything goes. Like I feel like when I was in high school, it was like it was like it was
Don't
not
date yourself
anything
here,
went.
Annie.
It was not it wasn't the same. I know it wasn't the same kind of free for all that you have now. Like
Hmm.
now it's like it's I mean you're there to express yourself like and no one's going to say anything. Like you get to be
Hmm.
where I mean and I'm like you can wear skinny jeans, you can wear wide jeans, you can wear jinkos, you can wear like it doesn't matter what you want. Like you can wear whatever you want. I feel like it's the same with music. I feel like it's the same with
Hmm.
books now. It's like I mean, think about how like it's so much more okay now to read smut than it's ever been, right? Like
Yeah.
and it's almost like a badge of honor now. Like,
It's
Mhm.
you
true.
know, it's like you get to just you get to it's so much more free and more open and I being that kind of a person, I'm like so I'm here for it.
I feel like we put ourselves in these self-contained boxes in the
Absolutely.
90s and the early aughts, right?
For
Where it was like
sure.
you were like an Abercrombie kid or you were like a Hot Topic kid, right? Like you didn't cross
Oh,
streams.
no,
And
Oh
there
my
were
gosh, it's
like
so
you
no
couldn't
true.
crossing of streams.
you wouldn't be seen dead in one of those other
No,
stores if that wasn't your social group
exactly.
or wasn't your expectation.
Exactly.
Even if you kind of liked it, you couldn't have it both ways. And if
Yeah.
I feel like no one cares anymore. You can go get whatever you want. So
I
I
had a
think,
mom who was an Old Navy lady. So she was
oh
like
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
she was like, let's go to the Old Navy and you were like, okay.
Or the Gap. We
It's
went
not
to
quite
Gap a lot.
Abercrombie, but yeah, that's fine. I guess we'll go. I guess
Hmm.
that's
Or
like the best.
Hollister.
Yeah, I guess that's the best option we got. Let's hit the Old Navy.
Well,
Yeah.
Old Navy was like the cheaper version, right? So that was what us mere mortals could get our parents to
Exactly.
do. I guess it was like a step up from Kmart and Target.
I
So,
know.
at least we got that, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that felt like a victory to
Exactly.
me if I could get something that wasn't like, I don't know, like a
Oh,
mall
me too.
department store.
Dude, I was just excited to make my own money and go to Buckle.
It's
So
true.
that was like my day. I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then Maurice's came around and it was like, oh, this is where okay. Noted.
Yeah. Everyone kind of
Maurice's.
found their niche, but then you didn't stray. And I think
Right.
it felt like it was more like that with books when I got started with this.
Yeah.
And I think COVID kind of changed that a little because people started reading who hadn't been reading before.
I agree.
So they jumped onto whatever was popular, which I am like, great, that's great. Try something that has a lot of social proof that people liked it from all these different spectrums. And then they were like, that was fun. I want more. And then they jumped into whatever else was popular, but they didn't really worry about genre because I think a lot of them were newer to reading. And that is
Mhm.
fantastic because all of these people discovered how fun it was because there's like these crazy statistics about how most people never read a book again after high school. And I think it really brought a lot of people into reading into that space. And there's so much competition with like unlimited entertainment now with all of the different streaming services and
Oh, for
everything.
sure.
So for people to give that a try and to use their time on that was really wonderful to see. And I love that they jumped genres. I love that they gave certain things a try that they wouldn't have tried before or that maybe they would have made fun of in high school, right? Like we're seeing it's like you guys mentioned D&D when we were chatting earlier. Can you imagine even just saying that when you were like a 13-year-old
Oh my
girl? Like
gosh.
You would never have
No.
even said those
even
words.
in high school, like we didn't even talk about it
Never.
when I was in high school, and they
Right.
literally were like the D&D kids, and you're like, oh, here's the thing, I didn't even
Oh.
know what D&D was. It was just like
Yeah.
a negative connotation when I was in school,
Yeah.
that you were
Yeah.
part of the nerd group or like the D&D
Mhm.
group, and now I'm like, I really want to learn how to play
Yeah, but
D&D.
now these are the cool
Like-
kids.
Mhm.
Like these are the cool
Yeah.
kids who are like creative, and they like, I mean, you should hear these kids that come to my house like on a weekly basis. So these boys create these complex worlds, complex magic systems that are based on like the spells and the curses and the like the complexity of the ability to your health, to what you're actually capable of
Mhm.
doing,
Yeah.
depending upon the character that you have, is
Mhm.
like my kid sat me down and was like, okay, well, I'm going to teach you how to play, Mom. I'm like, all right, let's go. And
Mhm.
he helped me create a character, and let me tell you what that was.
It took forever.
I think it took us like 4
Yeah.
hours for me to make a full character with all the abilities, and for me to understand the character, right? Because here I am going, okay, like you make it, but now I need to know it. Like,
Yeah.
what am I capable of? What am I good at? Like, are you a mage? Are you like, it was,
What is
I'm
your
telling you,
weakness?
it was a lot.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he gave me a very, very, very watered down version of a D&D campaign, and it was a lot of fun, but it was more complex than I could have even imagined.
Yeah. There's so many details and things to remember, and I don't know. I think it's cool that kids can have these hobbies now that would have been endless ridicule not that long ago.
No,
And
for
it's just
sure.
it's kind of fun to see.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it.
Well, and I mean, you do something very similar with writing books in general. It may not be
Absolutely.
as like crazy in depth as a D&D situation, because
Mhm.
like I
It
feel
would be
like
1,000
D&D
pages.
almost takes it to like a whole nother level. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
I mean, it would be a lot of pages.
But
It would be a very long
yes.
book if it got into all of
Yes.
those. But also, people in D&D, it's fun to look at the stats and um, you know, look at how much you need for these things. And there's a whole genre of lit RPG that's going to include that information. But for a lot of
Yes.
people, they don't want to know that your character has really high wisdom and really low charisma or whatever. Like, they don't want us to
Yes.
explain that. They just want to see the
On what
outcomes
page
without
number?
thinking about it. Yeah. So
Laura's
some
like,
people
what
really
are we
like
talking
that,
about?
though.
Charisma.
But
Yeah, some
but
people
Oh,
like
I
no,
that.
agree.
they love it. I mean, my kids
That's why you read a lit
read
RPG.
lit
That's why
RPGs.
you go to that
Mhm.
type of story, so
Sure.
that they talk about that
Right.
development. So as you were
Yeah.
That
going
genre's there for a
through,
reason.
yeah. So as you're going up through this reading process of, by the way, my first thought when you said that you started reading in second grade was Banicula, because
Oh, I read that.
that's
I totally
all
read
I
that.
could think about was this vampire bunny.
Yeah.
Like in second grade, like that would have been closer to like where I would stay in my lane.
Yeah.
I wasn't,
No, I was
That's
reading
so
like
great.
vampire nonfiction. Like, what a weirdo. I mean, they had a
but
whole
I
series
love
of
that.
monster books that explained like the history of it and where it came from, and like it was kind of cool. But vampires was the only one I was interested in.
That's
I ignored
amazing
all
though.
the
Probably would
others.
have. We probably would have been BFFs. I
That's
I
awesome.
I would have. I'm like a. I would have been like, oh, she's doing that. That's really awesome. I'm gonna do it too.
Yeah. See, and I
I
wasn't
was
into reading until later.
Yeah, and I think I think there's a lot of people too that read young and then forgot about reading, or never really got into it because they aren't given books that they enjoy and they connect with. And that's tough
I
too when
agree.
you're not reading things. I know my daughter just read Wrinkle in Time, which she was excited to read,
Oh,
but she didn't connect with it. And I think it's a little bit, the way it's written is a little different than the books that she does connect with. So, and she's a very avid reader. She's like devouring all the Wings of Fire books, which are dragon books. I don't know if you've,
Yes.
but it's like the dragons
oh,
are the characters, not like humans. She's obsessed with
yes.
those, but some of these other books don't hit. And I think if you never get that opportunity to read books that are fun, maybe you just don't like reading. So,
Exactly. And I feel like anytime somebody is like, this was required high school reading. I read this. It's like, you're not, no, we're not in the same category
Mhm.
anymore. You need to
Yeah.
learn what you like outside of that, which I think is really important as well.
And audiobooks need to count too,
Oh,
because some kids just struggle with reading. It's hard for them. So then
that's
they're
my
not going to
kids.
like to read, even if it's a fun story. It's,
No.
so there needs to be other pathways to find and discover this.
Well, I
So,
Yeah.
think an audio book is cool too because it teaches them how to be able to kind of dive into a different world, right? Like,
And to hear
Mhm.
accents.
and kind of like getting
Yeah.
gross and enveloped. And I mean, we did Harry Potter when we were younger,
Jim Dale.
and that was that. I bring that up only because of the narration of it.
Mhm.
The guy who did it was fantastic, and he really helped create, like a world to fall into. So
Mhm.
I believe that narration does that
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. And your narration is a big deal,
Yeah.
I think so too.
It's a big deal.
And pronunciation.
Yeah.
It helps with pronunciation.
Yeah.
I just like the pain of my existence.
Yeah, I pronounce
Oh,
a lot of things wrong in
sure.
my head, and then I'm like, oh, crap. So, yeah, I actually asked a friend once how a character's name was pronounced because she had been listening to the audiobook version of something. We were both reading it. And I was like, how is that pronounced? And I was like, oh, that is totally different than it was in my
You're like,
head.
oh.
So,
Yeah.
but
Oh, I've been there, done that multiple times.
mhm.
It's great.
I do a lot of audiobooks because I can do them while I'm driving or
Same.
They're the
laundry or
best.
whatever.
Cleaning,
So
anything.
I usually am
always have
reading
an earbud in.
3 books. Yeah, I usually have an audiobook, a Kindle book, and then something physical.
Oh, you
Um,
are one of our girlies for
You
sure.
are.
For
Yeah, it's
sure.
kind of depends on your mood too of which format you want.
It's so
Yeah.
true.
Sometimes
So
you just
true.
want the physical copy, and sometimes I don't know, you need the Kindle in your bathtub. So
Yeah. I'm not going to drop a real book.
no,
No, thank you.
No,
Mm-mm.
I get that.
And they're heavy if you're reading a hardback too, especially. Sometimes you
Oh, for
just
sure.
don't want to hold it.
Yeah.
Laura
take us
can't
on
read
this-
them anymore, actually.
I can't.
Mm.
I can't.
can't hold
I have
books.
tendinitis. So my doctor's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, hey, by the way, I want you to not read physical books. And I went, excuse you.
I know.
Why?
So now
What are
they're
you
just
doing to
shelf
me?
trophies.
Absolutely.
And then you
shelf
have to get
trophies.
the audio or the ebook version.
That's
But they'll stay-
actually
they'll
been
stay
80%
beautiful.
of how I do them. Yeah. This is nice. But there's something about
They'll stay
holding a
beautiful.
book
Mm-hmm.
and just like being able to like actually like turn a page.
Yep. Whenever I
miss that.
travel, I hit the
Yeah.
bookstore first, which my daughter is now used to. And she's like, let's go to the bookstore. And I'm like, you packed 3 books. And she's like, Mom.
Yeah.
I'm like, fine, I'll buy you more. Because she
I know.
knows I'll never say no to a book. And she'll be like, Mom, this one has sprayed edges. And I'm like, fine. So
You're
She's
right.
she's already figured that out. But yeah, I always buy a paperback when I'm at the airport. Just I don't go in with one in mind. It's like a treat. Like to
Yeah.
just get something
It's
new
totally a
that
treat.
yeah, and even though I've packed books and my Kindle, I always buy something new.
Always.
Well, and it's kind of like the new thing a little bit too. Like I've seen a lot of like authors go and be like, "Can I sign my books?" at the airport because they hit the airports all the time, and I'm like, that's kind of a cool little treat. Like just pop in, sign away, leave it as a little, surprise for later.
I would like to do that at some point. That would be fun.
Oh, I'm excited for you. I think that would be so cool. I love
Yeah.
it.
I do
love
too.
it.
So take us on the journey of writing. So you've been a reader for the majority of your life now. So when did writing actually kind of take its place into where it is now? Like tell us about that progression.
I always loved like the writing part of standardized tests because I was a weirdo. But I did have a teacher in high school tell me I wasn't good enough to be in the advanced class because my writing wasn't good, but that I should take creative writing because I could do that. I was like, that's weird. I kind of want to like mail her one
Okay.
of my books, but instead I just don't. I'm like, I'm not getting engaged, but that's fine. But I had
I think you should. I think that this
I
needs to
mean,
happen.
maybe. I mean, maybe, but yeah, but I don't know, but it's fine. whatever.
Just
That was the only teacher I had who did something like that. And
give them the
I
bird
feel
and flip 'em
Literally.
off.
yeah, and I feel bad that there's so many teachers, like so many people who have stories like that about teachers, because I didn't experience that as much, just one, right, out of all the teachers I had. I had a teacher in sixth grade who had us all write short stories and then was gonna like publish it and then like sell the book, but or no, that was like third grade because I changed schools, so I never saw the finished one. But I feel like I had a lot of teachers that encouraged writing over the years, which I think helped. But I was notorious for not finishing anything. I would start things and then never, not even short stories, I wouldn't finish them. So that was tough to like. I don't think I finished my first thing ever until, oh God, I was like 30 the first time I actually finished, maybe even a little older, when I finished my first complete novel. I had so many abandoned drafts, just that I would do for fun, right? Excuse me. So, oh, in seventh grade, I forgot, my mom reminded me recently, I got an award for most likely to publish a book in seventh grade. And I
You
Nice.
totally
did?
forgot about that. Yeah.
Do
So
you have it still somewhere?
I don't know if my mom does. I'll have to ask her.
Oh, that would
But
be so
yeah,
cool.
I totally forgot about that. And I was like, how did they know? Like what did like what I thought I was so sneaky sitting in the back writing in
Just
notebooks, you know?
sprinkling it
I didn't
somewhere on
I
their
didn't think
future.
they knew. I had a in 10th grade I was working on I started this like spy novel with a friend in like ninth grade or
Yes.
something. We were like, we're gonna write this spy novel about these kids who like go in undercover because no one trusts, everyone underestimates teenagers. So we're gonna write this whole thing. And I would sit in English class and just work on that. I don't I didn't listen to the teacher at all. I feel terrible, but I spent a whole year and it never went anywhere. I never finished it, you know? So
I
then
do
I didn't
know.
write again for a long time. So I think I joined a critique group after my daughter was born because I was like, I want to write more, you know? And I actually I was a teacher and I was applying for my PhD. And one of my teachers I taught with was like, why do you want to get your PhD? And I was like, well, I want to write. And she goes, why do you need a PhD to write? And I was like, oh, because in my head, all I could think of was academic
I
writing,
I get
you
that
know?
though. I'm that way too. Like I'm that way where I'm like, you don't like sometimes you in your head you think that that's just the normal progression of like what you're
Or
supposed to
that's
do, right?
or that's the way to have a career at it, right? Like I
Yeah.
thought the only way I could be responsible and have a career as
Yeah.
a writer would be to
Or to
do
be taken
academic writing.
seriously, right? Like
Yeah.
they take you seriously
Hmm.
because you have this.
Right. So I was like hitting submit away from applying for a PhD program. And one of another teacher, she was like, you don't need a PhD to write, just
Cool.
write. And I was like, oh, like I needed, like no one ever gave me permission because she was like, do you really want to write academic? And I was like,
I
no,
love that.
I want to write fantasy or fiction. And she was like, well, then just write it. And I was like, oh, like I don't, I don't have
Yeah.
to go to school. And like, it wasn't even for an MFA program or anything. Cause I have a master's degree in humanities. The emphasis was in actually in Renaissance history. So I thought, well, I'll just keep going with history and just write history stuff, you know? But so I joined a critique group and started writing fiction, and that was when I finally finished something because I had that group support and it was like we met every week and
Cool.
we would share a chapter. So it kind of helped to motivate me to keep going on it and to finish it.
I love that.
So, we have a couple of really close friends that are authors, and they actually had some of the similar experiences.
Mm,
One of our really, really good friends, Avi Archer, she was mentioning that that's kind of where some of her stuff happens too, because she's in a writing group, and
hmm.
the amount of support that you get being in those groups
Yeah.
and really forming like the friendships and the trust that comes from some of those groups is really, really important to have.
Yeah. And finding one that's a good fit too, because I ended up leaving that group. Because at the time, most of them were trad focused and I was going indie. And some of the advice and some of the people had been reworkshopping the same book for like 10 years. And that
Oh,
wasn't at the
wow.
time. Yeah, at the time the trend in the indie space was to publish like really fast. So fell into that, and I was publishing like a book a month, which is I do not recommend.
Oh my
It was
That's a
god.
it was
lot.
not okay. Yeah, it was not okay. Um, and the books weren't what they could have been, because but that's what everyone said you had to do at the time. And that was under
Right.
an old pen name, but yeah, and I was just like, oh, they're not, they're doing something different. So me and another couple people kind of split off because we were more in the indie space. And then I've evolved a few times where you find new people that are kind of in your genre or are at kind of the same space you're at, where some people have, they've been writing the same thing or they've written 50 books and have never published. Um, but you want to kind
Mhm.
of be around people who understand where you're at in your journey. So, but yeah, those people are vital and they're
Yeah.
really, really important. And you really can't survive this industry without having that support of people who understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Well, and even having them like all everybody, like you were saying, kind of like on different levels too, right? Like if you have some
Hmm.
people who like actually have like some of that really good information of like in the publishing and like how to do
Hmm.
your covers and how to do like it all really works and plays off of each other. And
Hmm.
what me and Laura have noticed is that um in the industry there doesn't seem to be as much as in other industries of like gatekeeping some of that stuff,
Oh
like
yeah.
of like we're noticing people like, oh well, I get my stuff like, because you're indie, you're going, oh, I get my stuff done here, how much are you
Hmm.
paying? And they're like, I'm paying this, and then they're going, oh, let me help you, like
Yeah.
you should be, and like, oh,
Hmm.
your covers, they're taking this long to get back to you, like let me get you, like I feel like there's just not as much of like um this like holding information back just to keep yourself, so that you're moving forward and other people are moving back. Like I feel like
Hmm.
everyone's trying to in the author, this like indies, like they're really trying to like encourage everybody and create a little bit more of like a cool atmosphere, which I mean, I really love that kind of like
Yeah.
environment.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's a very supportive environment, and everyone does kind of help each other. The only place where I've had to start putting up some boundaries is when people ask for advice. I'm like, yes, let me tell you. And I was a teacher for 18 years. Like I go into teacher mode
Yeah.
and I'm like, yes, let me tell you everything. But now I have to go, have you written the book? Because I find I would spend hours talking about everything with someone and they're staring at me like, oh my God, 'cause, and then I find out it's just an outline right now. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
I gave you like, and the industry changes so fast too, that the things that work right now are not going to work 6 months from now or a year from now. So I'm like,
true.
oh, so now I have to be like, okay, have you written the book?
Yeah.
Like let me find
Let's
out where
see
you're
where you are.
at before I open the fire hose. So, and I think a lot of indies are so willing to share and so open. And that's the only thing I see when I see is people who are coming in and like, I just started my book. How do I publish it? And I'm like, oh, take it back. Take it
I
back.
love
Write
That's
the
that.
the
book.
only place where I see it being kind of an issue is when people are trying to, but I get that because I was researching like, how do I get an agent? How do I publish? How do I do this when I was still drafting? Because you're excited. But man, it's such a supportive industry. It's really, really cool. And it's really a small world too. Like everyone tends to know everybody, at least in an online space. You know what they've written, you know who
Yeah.
they've worked with, you know what, like if they were burned by someone, you know who that person was, and now you're not going to hire them. So it's kind of a small industry.
Yeah.
And once you're in, like once you I think kind of once you hit publish or once you start putting yourself out there, people are very welcoming.
I
I love
I
that.
love it. It's so cool. Which is
I
It
part
know.
of the
is.
reason me and Laura actually really love and have like really kind of jumped on into this industry, is because it fits us and our
It does.
personalities and
Mhm.
our lifestyles and kind of what we want to um do and who we want to be friends with.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I especially love romance authors, honestly. Like I was in other genres before and I don't know if it was the time or if it was just maybe they didn't like me. I don't know. I felt like they weren't as open or welcoming, but I swear it's like the second you meet another romance author, they're like your best friend. Like it's the most incredible thing. Just hanging out with a bunch. The first time I hung out with a bunch of romance authors, when I was at a convention, because a friend was a romance author, and she was like, let me introduce you to everybody," and they were instantly
Cool.
like, you're our new best friend. And I was
Yes.
like, oh, like there was no, like I didn't have to, they didn't even know anything about me. And I feel like the other genres I was in were a little bit more cautious, which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do think the romance authors are instantly like, hey, come be at our table and let's talk
I
and
think I can
let's,
see that now that you
yeah, let's
say
tell
it.
dirty jokes and I'm not going to filter
Yes.
anything. And you're in or you're in. Basically, they're like, I don't even care. Like, just be here and hang out.
Yeah.
Like, we'll just take you in. So
I love that.
There's
I love it
yeah.
nothing
so
better
much.
than when filters come off, right?
Oh, it's the
Like when
best.
filters come down and everyone's
Mm-hmm.
guards come down, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, we feel like that. We have a local book club, and honestly,
Oh, it's great.
we do it once a month, local, and we get about 20 people, and it is a good time. Like these moms all get to come, and not even moms,
Mm-hmm.
all these ladies, we get to come. You literally leave your like
BS at the door.
yeah, your
And then
PS
everybody
is left
comes
at the
in,
door. You walk
and it's
in,
like the filter. It's like walking through a shield of no filter, and everybody just walks in.
You can
And you're
say
like, you
whatever
never
you
know
want.
what's going to
You
happen.
can talk about whatever you want. There's nothing off the table. There's nothing off limits. And I just think it's really freeing. And especially if you have people who are, they work all day. They're doing
Yeah.
their daily lives every day. They just want someplace they can come in once a month, and we just get to you get to be who you want to be, you get to
And
be
then
Yeah.
you remove
Dropping
the
that
filter.
mask.
Yeah, you remove
That
the kid
public.
filter.
Right. Yeah. You're not a mom.
Yeah.
You're not like whatever your job is. You don't have that weight of the social pressure in those public spaces. I feel like there's a lot of expectations around how we behave in all these different spaces, especially for women. I'm sure men experience that too. I haven't experienced it through their lens, of course,
Correct.
but I do feel like there's a certain way I have to be at my child's school and, when I'm out in public and when you get to be around a group of people that feel safe, you can be like who you actually are at your core, which is really cool. And
Yeah.
I love that, like, especially romance in the romance community, that books are bringing people together like that. And it's been the coolest thing to watch, especially on like Book
Cool.
Talk and on social media, seeing these spaces where women get to geek out about things that they've been historically told are not important or silly. And they're seeing like, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who loves this stuff. And it's very validating.
So talking about geeking out, let's geek out about your writing right now, because let me tell you, like we've already said that we loved the series and that we've loved the premise of it. But I want to know about like when you actually started publishing, what was your first book that you did publish?
Yeah.
And where your thoughts have come in for like each series that you've created. Like, oh, I want to write about this next. I want to write about this next. Like, how do you get your ideas?
Okay, yeah. All my books are indie so far. So my first book was a YA fantasy under a different pen name. Because I wanted to write YA partly because I taught high school. I was around that group of kids, that age group. And I kind of wanted to write something that would be appropriate for that age and something that they would get excited about. And I felt like I kind of lived in this teenage world constantly. And I read a lot of YA. That was a YA phase. So I think that was where I started, and I really loved fantasy. But I didn't want to write anything that was sexy. I did not want to write any. I wanted to have all closed door or fade to black because I think that's where a lot of us start as authors, especially it feels uncomfortable to write that kind of stuff. So YA felt safer. So I started with that, and I didn't have a lot of success, as most people don't when they start. And then I was bored. I wrote 3 books and I never finished the series. And I got bored. So, which is a problem for me. I tend to get bored of my books and need something new. So then I wrote like this off the wall, weird urban fantasy thing. And I wrote urban fantasy for a while. And then I actually wrote some reverse harem. I was all over the place in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was just kind of like whatever sounded fun at the time. Like reverse harem was kind of new. I had never even heard of it, so I read some and I was like, that's fun. Let's try that.
Hey, What was your first reverse harem? Do you remember?
First one I read?
Do you remember like some of your first? I remember my first, so I'm curious if you remember your first.
Oh God. I don't know if I remember my very first.
I don't remember mine, Annie.
Mine was Laura K. Hamilton.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because she did that, like, she started with the Anita Blake series, and it didn't start out that way. It was, because she's a necromancer, and it just started out with her, like, being able to, like, control the dead, right? And it was such a gritty, like, story, and you just progressed, and by the time you were into, like, I don't remember, I mean, you were probably, like, down into, like, book 7 and 8, where maybe it wasn't even quite that far, where she started, like, introducing different men in, and you're like, oh, okay. And then it starts to like pick up where we're starting to have like more, not just having like you're my boyfriend and you're my boyfriend and you're my boyfriend, we're all together at the same time. And I think so I think Laurel K. Hamilton was my first like introduction into what I would consider a why choose.
Yeah. I think she's probably a lot of people's intro then. I never got that far into the series. I have a hard time with long series, but
yeah.
I feel like, okay, so like going back to like the True Blood series with like Sookie Stackhouse.
Totally.
That one wasn't reverse harem, but it could have been, and I think a lot of us were mad that she chose who she chose.
Like in all reality, that one had like the perfect makings for it.
Right. Like she had so many different, and all of them had good and bad aspects. So I can't even remember now who she ended up with. That was a long series. I'm surprised I actually finished
she end
that
up
one.
with Bill?
I'm pretty sure she ends up with Eric. I don't think she ends up with Bill.
I can't remember because there was the TV show too, which was totally different. And now I can't remember which one was the way it ended in the books. Because that was a while ago.
It really was. I listened to them through narration, which is fantastic, by the way. The lady who narrates the Sookie Stackhouse series is like amazing. She has really good, beautiful Southern like like she just
hits that Louisiana drawl and that Southern accent really well.
The books are funny.
Yeah.
Right? Like, do you remember they're kind of quirky almost even, like a little like she's witty and she has that Southern charm that's kind of like I don't know, like just I'm missing the right words, I feel like, to fully describe what it is, just because I really like the Sookie Stackhouse series. Yeah. But I probably didn't get through all of them. I'm sure there's 3 or 4 that I didn't get to that were, at the end.
I remember reading all of them, but I don't remember the details as much. I feel like that series finished like 10 years ago.
Way too long ago.
It's been a while. So
it's been a while.
But they're kind of short, which is what helps. I think that helped is they were pretty short.
Yeah.
So and I was reading them while she was still publishing, so I would just grab the new one when it came out, and that was easier. It's harder for me to get into something if it's done because it feels so daunting. But when you get into a series and you don't even know that you're signing up for a 10-book series, that's a little different, right?
It's true.
Because now you're committed.
You should read Blood and Ash. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I haven't read any of them. I mean, I have them all right here, but I haven't read them yet. And but it feels a little daunting, right?
Especially when they're longer. Yeah.
I can see them all right there. And I'm like, oh, this is a commitment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You probably should though. I've read the first, I think I read the first 2.
Okay.
But
I
did, yeah. Yeah, and especially because people were comparing my book to hers, so I was like, I need to read her book. Because they were like, oh, you're doing the same things that she did. And I'm like, oh, I need to read her book. So I really liked it. But yeah, it's amazing how many people...
We had a couple girls say that your Kingdom of Blood and Salt was, they thought was better than ACOTAR. So,
oh. Well, that's a heck of a compliment.
They thought it was way more interesting. And our other friend Alexis actually was like, I think this is way better than ACOTAR. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, we had a lot of people really, really enjoy this book.
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's a heck of a compliment.
I just found my first white shoes. and or reverse
Oh,
harem.
you found
Oh, yeah.
yours?
I
What
did
is it?
the
is it?
Bonds That Tie series
Okay.
by
that was
Jay
your first
Bree.
one, too.
Oh, okay.
That was
a
my
later
first one. But
Yeah.
I
Can't even
wasn't
remember
really
what I read
big
first.
into that.
No.
I wasn't really big
Yeah.
into it at the time. And then Annie was like, Laura, you need to participate.
I know I really liked The Power of Five. I remember reading that one and enjoying that one.
Okay.
That one was fae. It was more fantasy. I think I started more with like urban fantasy though, but there
Oh,
were
for
so many
sure.
indie authors writing it at the time. I read a bunch of them because I was like, I didn't know you could do this. But I
Mhm.
have a tendency to read just book one in a series and then
Yeah.
jump to a new series. I don't finish series very often because I do get bored. It's
Yeah.
that ADHD thing.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, I get bored with my own work too, so it's not, I feel like it's not like, it's not you, it's me too. Like, it's everybody.
It's just it's
Doesn't
a
mean your
whole
book is
mood.
bad. Doesn't mean your book
No.
is bad.
No, it's a mood
But
thing. It
it's,
happens.
yeah, so I kind of have to make myself read later books in the series to, and once I start, then I'm in, and I'll keep going. But I don't know why it feels
Yeah.
so. It feels like such a, I don't know, maybe I have commitment issues, so it just feels like really,
Yeah.
it's hard to pick up book two in a series because there's so many books I want to read.
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
I read a
Agreed.
lot of book ones. So I think I read a
Was
lot
it?
of indie authors um that were writing Why Choose at the time when it kind of exploded.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know you could do this, you know? So it's
So
kind of
how
fun.
was it to write that then? Going from
Yeah, that's what I
writing
wanna
just
know.
like MF, how was it to writing this series where you have multiple partners and then you're
Mhm.
writing
Yeah.
spice on page? So how did
Yeah.
that go and how was it to write your first spicy scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, my first one was embarrassing. I remember I felt like, oh God. So I told you I was in this larger group and like three of us kind of split
Uh-huh.
off. And it was one guy and another girl and me. And we went out to celebrate someone's birthday and we're sitting at a restaurant in Denver. And I was like, oh my God, you guys, like I wrote my first spicy scene. And then I have my laptop with me because for some
You did
reason, I
not.
don't know, like, and
No.
I did. And
Oh, this is great.
so then they're like, oh my God, I want to see this. So I'm like, okay, fine. Like we've shared writing. And then the guy is like reading it out loud. And I'm like dying.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
wasn't
Oh my
even
God.
that, it wasn't even that
That's great.
spicy compared to like
Oh.
where I went later. But we're all sitting there like, oh my God, I can't, like giggling. Like I don't know, like a small
Oh,
child
that's
who
great.
someone
Oh
said the word
man.
penis and everyone's giggling, right?
Oh my gosh,
And
I love
he's
it.
reading this scene that now would be like, it's like nothing. Like, but I was, oh my God, I was like, I am never sharing my writing with you again. But yeah, so it was like so awkward. You feel like I don't know, I felt like I was doing
You,
something naughty, right?
well,
And
yeah,
it's
I feel so pervy or something where
right.
you're just
And I
like,
go from that to like 6 months later, I'm writing a scene with four dudes and one girl, right? That
Yeah.
is very graphic, and they're all and do you know who my first reader is for all my books? Um,
who?
my mom.
Your mother?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like,
Okay.
mom, there's multiple guys in this. And she's like, that's fine. Doesn't bother me. So I give it to her and she's like, that's a lot of work. Like,
Okay.
she's like, she's like, that doesn't sound like if you think about it in real life, like
No,
that sounds
in real
really
life,
too
you're like, the
much.
amount of effort that I am putting out for this is
Yeah.
way more than I
I'm
would
like,
normally do with one.
how many
Yes.
pairs of socks am I picking up off the floor now?
Oh, shit.
For real
you
though.
can't let yourself go there. And my mom is always like, oh yeah,
No.
that sounds like a lot of work. Like,
Yeah.
No, this is fantasy, okay?
right.
There's no mistake about this. A why
Yeah.
choose is fantasy. If you think why choose is like, I mean, I understand polyamory. I find it
Mhm.
absolutely fascinating. I'm in full support of it. I think it's a really cool dynamic if you can make it work. I think you all have to be very responsible and very grown up to make situations
Well, and
like
really
that, work.
emotionally, like have a lot to give because it's a lot to
Oh
give that
yeah,
much
yeah,
care to so many people, like on
Absolutely.
that level. Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it helped because like the first book, I think I only had her hook up with one and like introduced the next one, and then in book two, she hooked up with two. So it kind of like
Oh, that would be
my
way
first time writing
easier.
it like progressed. But then by the time I'm getting to the end, I'm like, where are they gonna go? Like she doesn't have enough
Right?
like
Okay.
places.
That's my biggest hiccup in why choose reverse harem as a whole. It's like, where is everybody?
Right. Like how are they all getting enjoyment out of this
Yes.
when you have these straight men, right? Because
Exactly.
Yep.
they weren't. And so I do think I wrote another one
Straight
where I
men.
had the men being involved with each other, and that was a little bit more interesting, I think, in terms
Makes
of like just
totally different.
yeah, but because I read someone's reverse harem where the guys were also involved, and I was like, oh, that's better. Like I didn't know it seemed like, and I didn't know that was a thing. I feel like I
Yeah.
kept being like, you can do that? Like, of
Oh,
course you can do that. But I had
it's
never
so much
seen it
better.
before or read it
You can do
before.
whatever you want.
Yeah, and now like there's this huge explosion of like male romance, and those books are fantastic. But it was like
Yeah.
since I hadn't seen them
Oh, they're
before, I didn't
fantastic.
know it was an option. And that's I mean that's part of why like right, it's so important for us to have all of these options and to show people that these things are out there and to have diverse books and to have lots of different kinds of relationships and people shown in these things because I was like, you can
So
do
cool.
that? And like
I love it.
So
it
cool.
just was so important to have that different representation just to show people it's even possible.
Yeah.
So I remember
cool.
the more I read, and I think that's why I like reading book ones too, because I get to see the way other people create relationships and the way that people come up with things. And
Totally.
I get to see so much of the world through the books that other people write. And it's really cool. So yeah, I think that was how I did the reverse harem, was just building. And then the next series I wrote of it, I think I had the men involved. Um but then I got bored of reverse harem. So
Gotcha.
I ended up
As we do as mood people.
yeah.
You
I wrote
gotta change it up.
yeah, I launched this pen name with a reverse harem academy just to test it out. So the very first book in that series is only like 38K. And that was really fun to write, the academy thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that. Um, but then yeah, I got tired of reverse harem and I started writing wolf shifters. And it wasn't reverse harem, it's just male female. And then I got bored of that. And really what I wanted to write was fantasy. The whole time I had just been wanting to write fantasy, but my first fantasy flopped. So I was afraid. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And that's where we come up with the Blood and Salt series, where I'd been sitting on this idea for a few years, but I was afraid to write it because I had had enough success to start seeing some income from this. And I was like, I would love to do this full time. So I kind of, it's that balance of where you're like, I need to write books that people want to read, but also what I want to write. And I was like,
Yeah.
can I jump genres again? Will people be okay with that? And then I got to a point where I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna write what I want. So
Yeah, because at
that
some point it doesn't matter. It's like I'm the
right.
one writing it. Like
Yeah, and if it flops, it flops. Like
yeah.
that's how I got up to getting back into fantasy because that's where I started. So, yeah. Anyway.
Where does obsession come into play? Is obsession after? Did you write obsession after you wrote Kingdom of Blood and Salt?
No, that was the one I wrote right before because
Okay.
I was like, well, I like vampires and I was bored of wolf shifters, but I was afraid to write fantasy.
I haven't
So,
dipped into that yet. That's gonna be like that will be our next. I think that's my next read from you.
oh, okay.
I'm in book 3 right now of
Okay.
Kingdom of Blood and Salt. So I'm just at the end of book 3. We'll pop into book 4.
I'm dying at the end of book 3 right now. Like I'm literally in the last 10 minutes. Okay. I am in the
2 ended and I was like, what just happened?
Yes. By the way,
I really I love cliffhangers as a reader too.
Yes.
So sorry.
We should preface this right now that we're gonna get.
I don't mind it.
We're probably gonna get more into spoilers at this point moving forward because we are going to jump into Blood and Salt and these other books. So if spoilers come out, this is your fair warning. Here is your little blip.
I'll try not to. Every once in a while, something slips
It
out
will
of me.
slip up for me, guaranteed. I'm just gonna throw it out there because I'm so deep into this now that I'm like, what is happening?
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but
so Obsession was like my break from wolves because I was trying to figure out, do I keep doing wolves? People like them, or do I, but I was like, I really wanted to write this fantasy book, and so I put out Obsession. And then after the first one came out, I was like, I'm gonna write this
Yeah.
fantasy thing next. So Obsession
Cool.
was meant to be like a trilogy, and I ended up cutting it off at two because I was like, I have to write this book. I actually met Stasia Stark
Did
at
you?
a conference. Like, we didn't know each other at first. We met at a conference right when Obsession came out, and she's like so outgoing, and she was like, you are going to be my friend and hang out
Cool.
with me, because I was like hiding in a corner. And she was like, no, you're coming out with me. And I was like, okay, which I'm incredibly grateful. We're good
Those are the
friends now. We
best
talk
people
all
to
the
have.
time.
That's
Yeah,
what
she
Laura is to me. She's like, let's go. And I'm like, all right,
yeah,
let's
she was really good at like being like, you are joining us, like you're coming out
go.
with
Love
all
it.
of my already, like the people I already know. It was really, really wonderful. But I was like, I'm gonna write a fantasy next, and she was like, oh my God, me too. So and we had both been in the PNR genre. So it was really interesting because we were both starting our first fantasy, which back then no one was really calling it romantasy yet, but
Right.
that's what it was. And we were both starting it at about the same time, so we would chat about how that was going. We would read each other's first drafts and stuff. Hopefully she's okay with me sharing all this. But like, it was interesting because we both published about the same time. We both moved into this new genre about the
Cool.
same time, so it was really fun to have someone to go on that journey with. But both of us were kind of like, oh my God, are our readers gonna like follow us? Like, are they gonna be upset with us? um so it was an interesting shift, but it was both what we both wanted to write. At like the
Yeah.
core of it, it was what we but we thought we weren't like, it's not really you need permission, but it's when you're trying to make it your income, there's that,
I know. There's a
that
pressure there.
element to it where you're like, is this gonna sell? So yeah.
Right. The pressure of shifting is I see it and I get it, but I also just think that like a lot of times like you create a trust with like your readers that you're capable of like
Mhm.
providing like the story and I think most people are like willing to go along for the ride, you know? They're like, yeah,
Mhm.
let's do it. Let's see what this is about.
Yeah.
And um I like diversity. I love having paranormal, but I like doing like the romantasy too. It's just
Mhm.
there's a grit to paranormal that I love, right? Like
Mhm.
there's like a dark grittiness sometimes that you can get in a paranormal that you don't necessarily always see like in a fantasy, you know? And so
Yeah.
that's why I mean when you have mood readers, we just like different
Mhm.
things and we go through like different phases and
Yeah.
I mean, we all go through a good shifter phase. I don't know what it is about a good fated mate, but I'm
Right.
like a sucker for it. I don't know what it is. It's like I can't seem to uh maybe it's that girl in me that comes out. I don't know. But
I think
I'm
it's
just a sucker
because,
for a good fated mate.
yeah, I think we all kind of like that idea of like having someone who's meant for us and is going to be there for us no matter what, and that
Yeah.
is like your perfect partner, kind of already chosen. You don't have to do the work of like
Yeah.
looking for it yourself, I guess.
Right.
Maybe that's kind
They're
of my
gonna
theory
be
about that, is that
Yeah. Well,
people just like that.
I like the way you portrayed it in this one
Oh, thank you.
very much because it was
Yeah.
like you're getting into this one and you suspect, right? There is suspicion in Kingdom of Blood and
Right.
Salt that they are mates of some sort, but you don't understand the truth behind their mate bond until book 3. You
Mhm.
don't understand how that can all actually work. And that, yeah, you have a mate, but you don't have to be with that mate. But you can
Mhm.
have it. You can choose to. It's not even like necessarily like rejection like you would get in a shifter bond. It's
Mhm.
different. It's unique. I felt like it hit different because I feel like when you're in a rejected mate bond, you actually, like in a shifter series, it's like a hard line and then it's like really painful or whatever. Like it's almost like a visceral
Yeah.
reaction. Versus in this one, it's like, no, you can be with anybody, but you can't be with him. And so it's like I don't care, but like I also have a say, but there's also still that tension of like, no, she's mine,
Mhm.
without it being like
Yeah, I think you did really good in
overdone.
the
And I
tension in
loved
the first
it.
book.
Oh my
Oh, thanks.
gosh. I was so excited.
Look, we're all about the tension. I think, but I actually think that that's like the purpose of a book one.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
maybe that's why I actually tend to really love first books in the series is because the tension, that's where all the tension is, and that's where it's built and created, and yeah, it was, you felt it in this series for this first book, so you did a really good job with that.
Oh,
I
nice.
agree.
Yeah, it's that will they, won't they? And I think that's one of the harder parts about writing a series where you have the romance, because you at some point you have to get them together. Like
They
in a
have to be
romance,
together some
yeah,
point.
you know they're going to get together, but a lot of people lose interest once they are together, because that's, I mean, that's where contemporary romances end. Like they get together, it's over. There's nothing that goes on to what their life is like after. So if you're going to write a series, you have to somehow keep that tension and keep that interest even after you know they're going to be together.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
that's one of the things that I think that's probably why I like book ones the most too, because you've got that, you're like, oh my God, just fuck already, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
'Cause
hard
it's
to
fun.
maintain throughout a whole series. Like you don't,
It's so hard.
like as a reader, you're like stressed and you're like, can you just like, what is wrong with you? You're like angry at these characters, right? And that's really, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
well, and I
just
loved
give
it.
me a taste. Just give me a taste.
Yeah.
Which is why slow burn is fun, though. Like, I like a good slow burn. You just need little breadcrumbs along the way, though. If we're slow burning.
Yeah.
So what made you come up with the idea of Kingdom of Blood and Salt? Because there is this Greek mythology mixed with, you do have shifters, you do have vampires, you have the fae, you have humans, you have gods, you have all these things. What was like the moment where you were like, nope, they're all coming together?
Well, I really it was very loosely based off of the myth Theseus and the Minotaur, because the female character, I'm probably saying it wrong.
I see that.
Ariadne. I should probably like have looked up the pronunciation. I did look up the pronunciation, but now I can't remember what it was. But the main character gets so fucked. Like she is so screwed in this book, where she just like she gets him out of the maze. Like she gets Theseus out. She saves his ass, right? He takes her along, but then he abandons her on an island. And then in some versions, that's where Dionysus lives, and then he ends up marrying her. And then she still has this really tragic ending, even though she ends up marrying a god. So I knew I wanted to bring like at least Dionysus in because of the nod to the myth. And I wanted her to have a better story and to have some power, because she's the one who like gets him out and gets him all this glory. And he has a tragic end too, because they all do. But she's the one who saves him. And then he abandons her, and then he's the one who gets the glory, right? And I'm like, but you be nothing without her. And I kind of wanted to give her a different story and do a spin on that. So it's not exactly a retelling, but that's where the inspiration came from, because I was like, well, why did they need these sacrifices? Like, so originally the whole island was supposed to be vampires, and it was like a blood thing to like feed them. And that was my original idea with it, but I don't outline. So I don't pre-plot a lot of things. Sometimes I do, but or I'll have like key things, but I'm not like a play-by-play. So it changes as I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like while I'm writing
how am I going
especially
to tie
book
that
one,
in now?
like yeah, so like the later books I will sit and outline based on what I've, sometimes I'm like, oh crap, why did I do that in book one, right? And then I'm like, I have to problem solve to fix something that makes it harder to write the later books. So that's the downside of not plotting. But my book one, I'll let myself just go for it. Sometimes I end up cutting like lots, like I'll cut 20 to 50,000 words, because I'm like, well, that doesn't work, you know? So and then I have to go back and fix it,
Oh my
because
gosh.
yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it
That's a
sometimes
lot.
there's negatives.
Okay, well, Pierce Brown, just so you know, does the same thing.
Yep.
Oh,
We
really?
saw him the other day, and I think he does outline, but he did mention like, I'll write like a 400-page something and be like, no, that's not gonna work, and just let it go and then move on, because it's where you were at the time, but then you go, oh, this actually is not gonna work with what I want, and yeah.
And it was harder in the beginning to do that. Like even just cutting 1,000 words was like, oh no. But now I'm like, none of this works anymore. I got to start over. And I just in the trash. Like there's, oh my God. I have books that I've written, 20 or 50,000 words. And I'm like, that none of that works. And it's just like starting over. and then I'll cut also while I'm on that draft. But sometimes it just isn't working. Which I feel like is the risk, but I get bored if I have an outline. So even when I do it, I'm like, I'm gonna outline this time, and I'll outline, and then I'm like, well, that did not, like, I am so
Yeah.
far off, like that
Well,
that doesn't work
Don't you
anymore.
think sometimes like an outline like puts, like we talk about being in a box a little bit, sometimes it like actually
Mhm.
takes your creativity and it like starts to kind of like make you feel like you're like you put in the outline, so you're stuck to this, and it's like
Mm.
it doesn't let that like movement happen and like that story like unfold like on its own.
Yeah, I think it's different. Everyone's got a different process, right? Where some
Yeah.
people do a lot of that creative work up front in their outline. Some people's outlines are like 50,000 words. They're really
Right.
detailed, and other people's are just bullet points. So I have a tendency to, I get to about the midpoint and I'll need to reread everything I wrote and then come up with at least a couple points to get me back on track. Cause I usually know how the book's going to end, and I'm
Right.
like, oh, we gotta get there. Like, I'm like, okay,
Right.
and I also know one or two things that I need to put in to get to the ending. And I do tend to outline a little bit more as I go through a series because I have to use the rules I've established already. Um, but I think that's what makes book one so much fun to write too, is I don't have any rules yet in my world. And then by the time I get to book four, I'm like, oh man, like it would be so cool if I could just do this. But I established that like that's not possible. So so that one was, I had an entire plot for this one, and it did not go exactly that way, but I have a friend that will go on like long hikes together. So I do get outdoors and do outdoorsy
Yeah.
things, but like it's like limited for like a couple hours. And I told her this whole plot like 2 years before I wrote the book, and she was like, you have to write this. And I was
Cool.
like, yeah, I'll get to it at some point. And when I finally sat down, it didn't follow the plot that I had come up with that I told her about, but there's elements of it that maintain the same. So, but I thought it was fun. I was like, I'm just gonna do what I want. Like, I'm just gonna throw it all in there. And I love writing fae, but everyone seems to write fae, or at least at that time period, it was so popular. And I was like, what if I added the other creatures too? Because I had written fae books, and I had written shifter books, and I had written vampire books, and there were elements of it I liked in all of them. So I was like, why don't I just make this crazy world, and I'll just put everything in there. And I knew I was going to have the gods, but they didn't come in, I don't think, till book two is when I introduced them, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, they all
So,
start kind of coming into book two. You don't actually meet any of them. They're
mhm.
alluded to in book one and kind of like slightly introduced, because I think
I
there's
think
a
at the end of book
statue in.
one, I think I introduced Iris
Yes.
at
Okay.
the end of book
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you
but
don't
I
know
don't,
that that's
unless
what's
you,
going on. You
right,
don't
unless you
know.
know Greek mythology,
Right.
you don't know that that's who she is. You don't know that
Right.
she's anything of importance other than just a random maid.
Yep.
So,
But what's nice is that you don't actually have to know Greek mythology either. Like, I think that
right.
that's what's really cool is when you're capable of bringing in elements from other pieces and putting it together, but you don't actually, like, I don't need to know who Nyx really is, right?
Mhm.
Like um like I don't need a lot of backstory to that, because you provide enough within the story for me to get an idea of like what she entails, right? And
Yeah,
like what her purpose
and
is
I
within the story.
and I borrowed from Greek myths. I didn't It's not a straight up retelling either.
Yeah.
So, none of it's like
Right.
exactly as it would be if I were trying to be more intentional with the retelling. So
Right.
it's borrowing those elements. And so some of the characters and stuff, I use the names from Greek mythology. Like I use Naxos, like the island, and stuff. But other
Right.
things, I created my own or borrowed from other mythology. But so that was kind of nice too, because I didn't feel like I was locked into exactly. And I think that's part of why I pitched my first draft, because I was like, oh, I have to do this stuff if I'm retelling. And then I was like, but I don't have to do a retelling. So I can do what I want and just be inspired by it. So
Yeah.
that shifted a little bit.
And I liked
Is
it
this
though.
their newest series though? So Kingdom of Blood and Salt is like your latest series, right?
Hmm.
That's out right now.
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Making sure I'm right on the timeline.
Yeah, that's my most recent. But the last book came out a year ago. So
Right.
it's been a big gap for me because usually I would have more out by now.
Yeah. So when you were going through this process, though, you have these narrated as well. So
That's
how
right.
did it go about the process of like getting these
Oh.
narrated and getting a narrator to work with?
I found she actually, I think she cold called me, which she emailed me
Okay.
with a
That's the
sample.
best.
um like I'm probably gonna get other authors are gonna be mad at me for saying that because now their inboxes are gonna be flooded. But
Ah.
she actually sent me a sample of Obsession. Like she did a chapter from Obsession and sent it to me, and I was like, well, I'm not doing that on audio right now, but I really liked the way she did it. So I was like, well, I have this other series, and so um I hired her because also I really some of that stuff I'm like, I don't want to spend 8 hours listening to different narrators. And I don't feel like that's my area of expertise. So I
Mhm.
had like a couple other series that were done through Tantor, like they bought the rights. And so I knew I wanted to do it on my own, but I was a little overwhelmed, to be honest. So her reaching out, and then I
For
really
sure.
liked the chapter that she gave me. So I was like, okay, let's do this, you know? So it wasn't as intense as some people are. Um, but I thought she did a good job, and
It's done
it
very
turned out,
well.
yeah, it turned out well. And I like that it's on in other formats for people to access. So, and it will be coming out in other languages too.
Way
So haven't
cool.
haven't
Oh,
announced that anywhere yet. So you guys are the first to hear that. So
First to
that's
it's gonna
know.
cool.
be it's gonna be
So
coming
it's
out
coming
in
out in narration or actually like print, like
just in
it's
print.
printing and
Yeah,
narration? Just in print.
Still
just
so
print. Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So I'm not really sure what the audio market is like in other areas of
I
the
don't
world.
know
I
either.
should,
I don't
yeah,
either.
but so just
That's
print.
funny.
Yeah,
We've never thought about that, Laura.
I never thought about that
yeah. I don't
either.
know.
Yeah, I didn't ever think about that.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't.
Things
I
to
have no
look
idea. I haven't
into.
researched that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a big fan of the audio.
For sure.
It's just life gets in the way sometimes, and
Hmm.
it's really nice to be able to escape a little bit while you're doing the boring, mundane, day-to-day things that have to happen, but you're
Hmm.
still able to disassociate a little bit
Yeah.
while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been able to pull it off sometimes with one headphone while my child is like watching a cartoon.
Yeah.
So,
It's great.
especially when she was younger, I don't
Oh
want to
yeah.
watch the cartoon for the 500th time, but she wants me to sit with her. So, it's very handy.
No.
Audiobooks are the
Yeah,
best.
yeah,
Are the best.
they are.
I agree. I feel like I'm really
Okay.
bad about talking about my books. So I really liked
I
this
think you've done
series.
great.
It was fun. So thanks.
It's been great. We've
It's
really loved it.
weird to be like, let me tell you about. I mean, I think we get more excited, at least I do, about telling people about what my book is like or like where the ideas came from and stuff. But when it comes to like actually trying to market it or promote it, it feels weird. Um,
I believe it.
so
Marketing, though, right now is very interesting because you're dealing with multiple platforms on
Yeah,
top
there's
mhm,
so
of
many
everything
different
else going
avenues.
on. It's like, is
mhm,
TikTok staying? Is it not? Do I care? And then
yeah,
being like, okay, so let's focus on
Yeah.
Instagram. Okay, well, then how am I hitting the right readers? How am I hitting the right people? And
mhm,
it's marketing is really finicky.
So crazy.
mhm,
It's so hard. I
yeah.
don't know how people do it.
I don't know how you do it.
It's a lot, and especially when you're an indie author, you're wearing all of those hats where you're doing all of that yourself, or you're hiring people to help you with it. But it's a lot, and the writing part is the fun part, right? That's
Oh,
the part that's
Yeah.
absolutely.
fun, and um, getting to discuss books, like even if it's not even just my books, like talking books with other people is always really fun. So that's the fun parts.
Yeah. Well, we're here. We love talking about books. We love coming on
Yeah.
here and talking about it in any form of context. Like me, I wore a freaking bookish shirt to the store the other day, and I'll start talking to people about the shirt I'm wearing, or
Hmm.
talking about icebreaker that somebody put inside their cart at Walmart. And then she
Yeah.
goes, well, will my 14-year-old like it? And I'm like, no,
Oh, no, no,
no.
no.
I
I
don't
mean,
know what
they
happens in your
might,
house, but
but
I'm sure they're gonna love it. I'm
Yeah.
but
gonna.
do you
You're
want them
definitely.
to?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You're
don't
definitely
know.
opening them up to a whole new world very early
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So
My
I
daughter has
love,
my
I
books
love
on
it.
my daughter has my books on her bookshelf, but I'm like, you wait a few years, please. Like,
Yeah.
Like, just wait. I mean, like, I'll give you the green light at like 17, maybe. Like, can we
Yeah.
just wait a little bit? Like, if you really, really want to, I can like cross stuff out and you can
Annie
read
has
it.
books
But
that are like that. It's great.
yeah.
It's great.
I did. I found a used book the other day that had all the F words crossed out of it.
Oh my
with black
God.
marker.
Somebody
I
went
found
through
a
and did
Joe
that.
Abercrombie.
Yes.
Yeah, I found a Joe Abercrombie book
Wow.
at a thrift store, and I was like, "Oh, the blade itself," and I was really excited, and I bought it, and someone had gone through and like literally crossed out like every single
Oh my
swear word,
God.
and he actually came into town about a month ago, and
Uh-huh.
I asked him to sign it for me.
That's awesome.
Because I
In
just
true
thought it was
Utah fashion.
fantastic.
That's so funny. Because
Yeah, I just
whoever's
thought it was
reading it
so
isn't going to
great.
figure that out.
Seriously.
No, I just thought it
They're
was
not going to read
awesome.
between the lines. Whatever.
Right. That's, I mean, like Xing out a whole sex scene, I can see, but like, I mean, because I mean, you're gonna tell them like they're having sex, but that's
Yeah,
all. That's
Yeah.
all you need to know at the age you're at. You don't need to read the details yet. At least
Exactly.
that's how I feel. But like, because I mean, sex is at this point like where my kid knows that sex
Yeah.
is a thing, but I
Yeah.
don't want her reading the details of it yet.
Yeah.
You
Not
know,
yet.
so
Not yet.
Well,
At 12
they
years
know.
old, like that's,
right.
I
No.
don't think that that's necessarily like an appropriate age for
No.
me, or like at 12 years old, I would
Yeah.
not be okay reading that. I would have
I
been
wouldn't
so
want to read it at 12.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, see,
Yeah.
that's my point. I don't think I'd want to read it at 12. Like,
Right.
it was not, and even when I was 16 and 17, I was probably still a little embarrassed,
Mhm.
like, kind of shy. Like, that was not quite, like, I was, like,
Mhm.
you know, that was still not quite there, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Someone handed me my first spicy book at 14 and I skimmed. I was like, I don't want to read that. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't, I was like,
Yeah.
I know that happens. I know I was just like, no,
Yeah.
like,
I'm good.
so I just didn't
It just
read
feels
those
weird.
parts, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think you reach a point
I
where
know.
it's just not interesting to you yet,
Yeah.
or it's
No.
embarrassing.
It's just
So
embarrassing.
It really
feel
is.
like, oh,
It
yeah,
is.
It's just
Mhm.
embarrassing.
But
Yeah.
so do you have anything? Whoa. Hello,
She's
microphone.
hitting stuff.
Hitting shit. So do you have anything that you're working on publishing? You said this one just came out the last book of this series came out a year ago. So do you have
Mhm.
anything that's you're currently working on that will be releasing anytime soon?
I do. I can't give all the details yet, but I have a book that I've been working on for about a year now, so that's why I haven't put anything else out. I started it right about the same time that the last book in that series came out. But I will get to share details in July. So
Ooh,
if
well, now we
you,
can't wait.
yeah.
Soon.
So if you
Super
follow
excited.
me, you will find out. Or if
Yes.
you're on my newsletter that I never send out and completely neglect, I will update
I
you.
am on your newsletter. Yes.
I'm so sorry. I will be sending out things on my newsletter. I'm doing a virtual signing through Baventi.
Okay, yes. So tell us
Laura
a little
wants to
bit
talk
about
about
this
that.
because
so glad you
Oh
brought
yeah,
that
yeah.
up.
I've never.
We're so curious what that's like.
Yeah, like I've heard about them back in like 2020 when people, but it was more or less just kind of like an online conference. So what goes into
Yeah.
an online signing, like a virtual signing?
So Baventi is like a pre-order platform that people have been using for signings. So they put together one that was just romantasy and just special editions. So it's the hardback special editions that we would do only at signing. So like the
Cool.
one I have up, it's just book 1 of Kingdom of Blood and Salt.
Perfect.
And it's the signing special edition. It's the only time I sell it is when I'm at signing. So
Very cool.
I'm doing it
Cool.
for this because I know there's a lot of people who can't make it to physical signings,
Right.
or can't get to every author that they want to see, or don't have the budget, right? Because there's
Sure.
too many books to buy.
Absolutely.
So I thought this was kind of cool. So I decided to join. And they're having some panels and stuff. I'm not doing those because I am heading out for the signing at Rare in London, like the week after this signing. So, or a couple days after this signing. So it was kind of a lot at the same time. So I didn't do any of the panels or anything.
Gotcha.
But yeah, people should check it out because it's a good opportunity to get those
Yeah.
special editions.
Way cool. We will have all of that linked
That's
down
cool.
below
So
in
you
the
go
show notes
in-
as well.
Yeah, I'm way interested. That's so cool.
Yeah. So
they're
that's
pre-orders. So there's
yeah, people are pre-ordering
so
them.
they have like you pre-order them, then they come to you, and
Yep,
they're
and then we
shipped.
ship them out and we sign them
Fantastic.
and all of that. and I always add swag. So
Way cool.
yeah.
Well, that's really fun. I haven't seen very many virtual
We've never
signings like
done
this,
one,
so I'm
and
excited.
Laura's like, we need to ask her what this is all about
Yeah.
because we've never done
Yeah.
one before.
Yeah, I've never done one either, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I'm really
It's so
excited
cool
for
what
you.
we can do nowadays, though. Like, really, like, just with, like, I don't know, not
Mhm.
having to, like, be physically present someplace. Like, it
Mhm.
just makes everything, like, so much more accessible. Like, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, and signings are intense. They're tough on there's some authors who can't really do them well because of whatever their physical restrictions are or
Right.
And I know there's readers that struggle with that too. I had some readers at the last signing who were really struggling with some of the ADA things at the hotel that I was at. I know they're hard to be accessible to everybody, and I thought the virtual one was a good opportunity to give that experience in a more comfortable environment.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
I love
So
it.
you're
I'm
doing
excited.
the virtual signing, you're doing Rare in London. What other events do you
Mhm.
have coming up here in the next little bit?
I've got BB4E Book Besties Forever, I think is what it's called, in Canada, in Vancouver at the end of July, and then I think that's it for 2025 unless I squeeze something else in. But then 2026 I have quite a few already signed up for, but I don't think I can announce those quite yet. But I have
They
at
do a
least a
FanX
couple.
out here in
They
the
do
fall.
FanX
Oh,
out
do
They
here.
do a FanX
Utah.
out here in Salt Lake. I'm just gonna throw it out there that
Yeah.
they do FanX out here, and they get
Yep.
some pretty cool authors. And I think
Do they? All right.
you may like that.
I'll think about it. I'll think about
It's
it.
kind
Yeah.
of cool. It's really fun.
I
Annie
know
will
I'll
spout it
be
off.
I know I'll be on each coast in 2026. I'll be in California for something, at least one thing, and I'll be in Florida for something. So at least I can hit both. So I'll have to find something in the middle. I'll figure out something.
Utah.
I've only
Trying to
driven
get
through,
people
so
here.
it would be a good opportunity to visit because I've only driven through.
Yeah.
So,
I want more people to come. So if you're an author and you want to come
know.
to Utah, let's talk.
Yeah.
I
want them
I
all to
do
come.
know a few friends who have book signings coming up there. So you're getting some. You're getting some.
We're trying. We are trying our damnedest right now. Come on,
I
Utah.
think
Pull it together.
We got a few hookups at a couple local bookstores that are really cool to see and really cool to deal with, that are they're just really good to work with.
Yeah, I think the word is out. I think people are starting to think of Utah for that kind of stuff now. So
thank God.
I think you'll see more.
Hoping so.
Thank God.
So, but Alexis, if anybody wants to follow you, where are you at? Where is the best place for them to do so?
I am really not the best with social media, but I'm working on it. But I'm on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and I have a newsletter that I never send out.
Sign up for that newsletter, people.
Right. I don't, at least I don't like spam you. But I do send things out when something's coming up. So I'll send one out about that signing, and then I'll send one out when I can announce the next book news. So yeah, I'm on the platforms and I'm trying to get better at them now that I'm not teaching full time anymore. I think I'll start being more active. And now that I'm wrapping up the editing phase so I can have a life again soon, until the next book starts. So
love it.
Yeah, so you can find me on those places, and I'll probably start being more active in the next few weeks, and then I'll go back into hiding again.
Until you
hyper
fixate on something else, and then you're gone again.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So I'm in the editing cave with the coffee and the sour candy right now.
Oh, sounds like a good time for me, because that's my jam.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
That's my jam. Well, Alexis, thank you so much for coming on today.
Alexis.
Everybody, go give Alexis a follow. Go check out Kingdom of Blood and Salt and watch for the amazing news that she says is coming in July. So you guys have an amazing day, and we will be back soon.
Yay.
Bye. Thank you.